coordinator Chad Morris. Y'all can fire away whenever you're ready.
All right. Glad to see everybody. What is this, 12, 13 practices? It's rolling. And but been a really good spring. But I'll open up for questions.
How do you feel like they're adjusting to the tempo? Have you seen them being cleaner with it, or is it still a process, I guess?
Well, it's still a process. There's no doubt. They are adjusting much better from day one to where we are now. And I'm pleased with the way we're progressing with the tempo and the pace of play that we want to play at. We still got a long way to go with that in that regard. You know, we got to get in shape, and these guys understand that, and that's what summer's for, getting the next thing. And I think they understand, you know, the pace of practice, the pace of play, that I want to play with or play at. And but they've definitely bought in. There's no doubt on that. I'm excited for the way they've approached every day.
It was after the first scrimmage. We heard there was a lot of procedural stuff. I mean, how much were you able to clean up from that?
This has been a really good week. There was the first scrimmage over, and you know, some of it's to be expected. You got a lot of young guys out there, a lot of freshmen that got their first baptism, so to speak, in Death Valley, and but they responded. You know, you always tell the best about what someone's about, how they responded, especially come out off the spring break. And it's been a really good week. It's probably been the best week of spring that we've had up to this point, and I've been really pleased with that. A lot of competition. The guys are flying around. So yeah, I think we've definitely progressed. Every day that we've been a part of spring, we've gotten better. Now, you know, the scrimmage didn't go the way we wanted it, but there were some bright spots that we were able to pick off of and build from.
Is Chris Vizzina starting to separate himself from the back at quarterback some?
You know, all the guys have done a good job this spring, and obviously developing the confidence level in each one of our quarterbacks. CV has definitely been one of those. And just being able to show just his comfort level. I've been really impressed with how he's progressed, as the whole team has offensively, how he's progressed as a quarterback and his comfort level. So yeah, he has truly progressed, and I've been really pleased with watching him through the course of this spring.
We saw Tait come in at number 2 on the tempo drill. Where's he at, and is that something, is he working a lot with second team now or what?
Well, Tate's done a really good job this spring, and it was his day to kind of get those reps, and I've been pleased with all our guys, like I said earlier. But you know, Tate's gotten several reps with the 2s, and as we've rotated those around as well with all our guys. But that was his day, and did it. Like I said, he's done a really good job of growing. There's been growing pains anytime you have a freshman out there and you're putting a lot on them. You know, you're going to have some ups and downs with guys, and but again, how does Tait respond when those days those series of practices or periods of practice maybe doesn't go the way you want them to go? How does he respond? And you know, that's, as a coach, that's what you look for, and to watch him, just be able to coach him hard. You can coach him extremely hard, as you can all our guys, but man, he responds the right way.
Chris Denson, how's his progression?
Yeah, CV's done a good job. Like we were talking a little bit earlier, he's been a guy that's gotten better. He feels a little bit more comfortable it seems like every practice. His comfort level is improving. He's definitely commanding the team, commanding the leadership of the offense, which is something I wanted to see. And again, you know, we've got great competition going on there, and so it's great to see.
What will look like success for you for the quarterbacks in the spring game on Saturday? What are kind of your goals? What do you want to see them get pushed on and ultimately do?
Well, just, you know, obviously the operation of because we'll be you know, base, and we're still going to run our offense, and but you know, getting us in the right calls and the right protections, and you know, I want to make sure that, you know, some of the procedural things that happen need to be cleaned up from the last time we scrimmaged over there. But, you know, just commanding the offense and dealing with adversity, because there's going to be adversity Saturday.
Talk about obviously baptism by fire for some guys. Naeem Burroughs, I think Coach Naeem's telling us, like, ran the wrong route once as an INT. Like, how much is he catching up mentally, I mean, physically?
Well, he's not the only one. And it hadn't been just once. So, which is good, that happens when you have freshmen out there. But again, guys being able to let us coach them hard and really kind of lean on them and squeeze them to the point, hey, look, this is the standard. This is what we demand, and you're going to make mistakes, and that's part of this game. But how you respond to it and how you let us coach you through that. It's one thing making a mistake because you just didn't know. It's another thing to just kind of get to the point where you're exhausted and just trying to labor through the practice. And those are the things we got to work through with guys. We're trying to strain these guys in several different ways, and one of the ways is just the pace of play.
I think Coach Lee kind of mentioned Harris Sewell has kind of been commanding the center position pretty well. Just how has he kind of translated moving from guard to center so far this year?
Well, I mean, he's definitely been an anchor in that offensive line. I've been really pleased with him. I mean, this is a guy that he comes to work, he's ready to go, and everybody rallies around him. And so that's been really good to see. You obviously love guys like that just command that, and everybody gravitates to him. And so that's we got to have that. We've got to have that from our center position there.
I know you got a couple receivers that are not doing live stuff, but they're in other drills and all. How are you trying to make sure the quarterbacks are getting the reps they need with those guys?
Well, obviously when they're up, we try to roll CV in there to get some throws to TJ and to Wesco and those guys. And we try to put them in as much as we possibly can. Now, obviously we can't in some of the live situations and stuff, but they are getting more than anything just the timing for our guys, for our quarterbacks, and them not to be to stay in tune with practice and understanding the formations and how we do things in the motions, and they've done a good job with that. I know that they've gotten a little bit more throughout the spring, and this week they've gotten a little bit more than they did the week before. So it's definitely different when they're out there. There's no doubt, which is good to see. But it's also an opportunity for guys behind them to get quality reps and improve. And sometimes you're exposed when that happens. And I think some of our guys see that, so especially some of the freshmen that we got. I mean, this is it's a grown man's game at times, and they've got to get out there and they got to understand that in high school, a lot of these guys were never ever pressed, and so this is the first time some of the freshmen have ever been pressed up at wide receiver, and so you really have to use your technique, and that's been one of the things that we've really tried to focus on this spring with our coaches. Is the technique is extremely important, and why we do things and how we do things, and everything counts. But again, those guys they're learning. That's just, again, that's part of being a freshman.
Chad, I know in the past you've been a proponent of making quarterbacks live during practices. Was there any consideration given to that, just to see how they respond to that?
Well, we talked about it, and obviously we're not doing that. We've done it before, and but we just didn't feel like that. We were in a position. Coach didn't feel like we're just in a position right now to be ready to do that, but we did talk about it briefly, and but it was, the right thing to do is absolutely not make them live.
You mentioned Harris will kind of be the anchor of this offensive line. Have you seen a starting five sort of emerge so far this spring?
Yes, yeah, they've I've felt them growing together. Obviously we got Braylon back. That's been good to see at that left tackle position. And again, just they've all kind of seemed like they've gotten in a sync together. We're still rotating some guys around, but we feel pretty good about what we have up front with those guys. And we got to have a great summer. I mean, bottom line, we have to have a great summer. And this is just a start. This isn't we're getting ready to go play next week. This is to get ready to get into summer now. These guys know our expectations. This is how we're going to practice. This is what our demands are. And now we've got to have a great summer with all our guys.
Kind of going off of that, what have you seen from Elyjah Thurmon this spring coming off of his injury?
Yeah, I've been really pleased with him. This has been a really good week for him. We've been able to move him around the offensive line. I mean, he's that guy that can play all the positions. And I've been really pleased. He's had a really good week this week. And again, this is something just for him to progress and to continue to take that next step through the course of the summer. But he's had a really good week.
talk about the summer plan. I mean, I think Coach Allen was talking about being really intentional about what they're going to do there because it's so important. I mean, what have you done to kind of lay it out or figure out what exactly they're going to do?
Yeah. Well, Coach Allen and I have gotten together several times, and we'll start that process next week. We've gotten together, kind of got a blueprint of what we want it to look like, what it's got to look like, and we'll go through starting next week our player evaluations after spring evaluations, and then I know we'll get with the strength staff and as an offensive unit or offensive staff, and we'll get with them and just kind of talk our goals of our players through the course of summer with our strength staff and kind of everybody getting on the same page there. So it'll be quite the process as we get through over the next. We finish up spring next Monday, start our player evaluations on Tuesday, and start player evaluations, and then we'll get into summer prep. But yeah, this will be very, very thought out and very detailed.
Coach, outside of the quarterbacks, has there been anybody that has stood out maybe a little bit more compared to the others of the group thus far?
I think Gideon's had a really good spring. I really do. I think Gideon's had a really, really solid spring. I mean, runs hard. I think C.J. Johnson's had another really good spring. They're just two different backs. Obviously they're just different. But Gideon has really stood out. I think, Gordo's had to be a freshman, he's had a really good spring. He was out a couple days with I think just had whether he was sick or what he was not, but anyways, he was back this week and he's made some incredible catches, and so he's got a great future ahead of him. But again, a guy that's learning how to get off press coverage and stuff like that. But Gordo's really flashed as well. There's been several guys. I mean, I could, there's several I can continue to list, but Tyler Brown's another one. I mean, Tyler is taking just about every rep, and being intentional with how he practices. I've been pleased watching him with that. So.
Quick heads up, Elyjah Thurmon will be available outside momentarily for anybody who wants to chat with them. We'll continue with Coach Moore.
Throwing vertically is obviously a big emphasis. What's been your evaluation so far about the accuracy from your quarterback?
We're working on that. That's been that's something that we've got to continue to stress through the course of summer. There's none better. Tajh Boyd was probably about as good a vertical thrower that I've been a part of, and so we've put a heavy emphasis on it. But it'll be really good though when we get our guys back, get everybody back healthy, so we can really work that timing. So yeah, that's going to be a huge emphasis this summer for us as well.
So how much do you feel Bryant Wesco has been able to get out of this spring, even though he's not full contact?
He's gotten quite a few reps, obviously in not a competitive situation, but he's gotten out and gotten some really good reps, and been able to work the timing with CV and those guys. And so I think he's definitely gotten a lot of quality this spring.
Is he capable of pushing CV for the?
I think we got great competition going on right now in our quarterback situation. I really do, and I think they've all taken the steps in the right direction. And so we'll continue. CV's he's our top guy, and he's gotten the reps there, and has really progressed. And I've been really pleased with the way he's proceeded and grew this spring.
So you would say going into the summer that there's going to be a competition still going into camp?
I mean, I think at every position people compete. I think coming out of spring, CV is our guy. And but there's still competition. No one signed a lifetime contract. And so we want that. We want competition at every position, all across the board. And so there's no days off. And when it comes to this.
You did an interview with The Athletic with you and your son, I guess, talking about his situation. One of the interesting things was he was talking about his mental health and all that. And you previously were talking to us about how much you've grown as a coach in the last few years. Did you learn things from just your own son's experience in terms of Tait coach being on the lookout for stuff like that?
100%. I mean, again, there's nothing like it unless you go through things with your own family, and so absolutely, you're always on the lookout for different things. But yeah, when things happen with your own flesh and blood, it's real as well. And no one's immune to anything. That's what you realize real quick. And so, but yes, it's it as a coach, as a dad, it definitely, your antenna go up real quick with guys when you notice things aren't right. Probably more so now than before.
You mentioned Chris and Gideon. Are there any other backs in that depth that have stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, they've all done a great job. I mean, there's from just a standpoint, they've all rolled through. And I mean, those are just two that they've all done a really good job. I mean, it really hasn't been just one that stood out. Gideon to me has stood out as much as anybody, but they've all gotten quality reps. They've all grown, and I think that it's getting guys back healthy has been key at that position. But I think that we got a room full of running backs that's had a good spring, and they've got to have a great summer, just like everybody else does.
How much has Jay Haynes got to practice this spring?
Yeah, he's been limited, kind of like Wesco in some areas. I mean, he's slowly progressing into it. It was good to see him this week out there and kind of getting a little bit more reps, and so a guy that still trying to play himself into shape too.
As of right now, is Easton Ware in that top 5 group for you guys?
He's been rolling in. He has. I mean, he's been rolling with both groups. But as we work through that, I mean, he's been a guy that's shown flashes. We need more consistency out of all our guys. But this will be a big summer for him as well. But yeah, he has.
How many offensive linemen do you feel like you guys have right now that could start for you comfortably that you feel? I
mean, I think we got a really good mixture of 8 or 9 guys right now that we feel good with. Feel that, and even more than that, we got some freshman guys that we're really excited about. Really excited. They just need time and they need reps. And so, I mean, when I say 8 or 9, I mean 8 or 9 probably guys that are a little bit more experienced. But man, we got a group of freshman guys that we're excited about as well. It's hard to put a number on that. I mean, I know we got enough to have some good rotation, some good competition.
Talk about having a plan with the strength staff on certain guys, and I know Coach Sweeney was saying Chris Johnson Jr. like he really challenged him. He's got to put on weight. I mean, how much do you feel like he still has to advance?
Yeah. No, and that'll be part of our conversation with our strength staff. It talked about every one of our guys, and we'll go through each one of our guys and talk about weight and where we feel like that we want them to be, and whether it's they need to gain more, lose more, stay where they're at, strength-wise, what we feel like some of their strengths are and their weaknesses. Do we need them, stronger in this area? And so that'll be the conversations that we'll have, and we'll spend several hours talking about with each one of our guys to our strength staff.
Do you think he's at this point a 3-down back type of guy, or does he have to, increase his strength?
Are you talking about CJ?
Yeah, CJ. Yeah.
No, I would feel comfortable out there with him, and I think you got a good group of running backs that you can roll some guys in. You don't have to have a every down back that's just that's going to get every one of the reps. I think we got a group that we can roll guys in and feel really confident with.
I think you said earlier in spring practice that the quarterbacks were kind of drinking water through a fire hose. Like, how they kind of just settled into learning your offense so far this spring?
It's been it's gotten better, but still, we hadn't held back on the installs. I've definitely kept the installs going. You just have to at this point. You have to. You're limited in the number of practices you get, and we want to get stuff in. We're not going to have the whole offense in prior to fall camp, but we'll have the majority of it in. And so I think more than anything, watching those guys, I think they've understood the way that my expectations, the way I want it to look out there. I think early on there was a little bit of just a lot of uncertainty of what what was Coach Morris's expectations? How does Coach Morris coach? How does he, where's, and they realize that, okay, well, this guy's all over the place. He's at every position, and he's demanding this, and this is the way things are, and everything has a purpose. Everything we do on that football field has a reason, and I think that's the fine details that these guys have really, even from the quarterbacks to the O-line, have understood that, okay, everything we do has a reason, and so drinking through the fire hose. Have they mastered it? No, they haven't mastered it. But have they gotten better? Yeah, they have. But I want to keep them uncomfortable too. I want to keep them on edge.
You mentioned just they kind of know what you want now. I guess for the quarterbacks, how Tajh Boyd kind of just helps with his experience in your offense, just trying to get them acclimated to your offense.
Yeah. Well, Coach Boyd's it's a great balance there, because there'll be a lot of things that he'll talk about that he's experienced playing underneath our system, and he'll be able to kind of lay the groundwork. Okay, here's what you need to expect. And then there's times that he'll be like, because I'm out there and I'm coaching him too, because he's learning as well as we're going through this, and I'm coaching him, and then for him to watch him coach those quarterbacks, and to be around those guys, and it's been good to watch his growth as well. A lot of stuff has came back over the years, like, oh yeah, I remember that now. Oh yeah, I remember this, and but yeah, he's done a good job of keeping that fine balance with the quarterbacks as well.
At a tight end, we saw Charlie Johnson, and with the first team, I know you rotate a lot, but where does he kind of stand behind Olsen? Is he up there with Bentancur, or where does that go?
Charlie's done a good job. I think they moved Charlie last year, I believe, and put on some weight and done a really good job. I think Christian and Logan both have been really pleased with them. We're doing some different things with all our tight ends, and so they all have to be a part and be on point with the way we do things. And so, it was to see how guys respond. And I do want to be able to get into some 12 personnel and 13 personnel, but I also want to play fast. And so they understand that this is the way it works. I shouldn't have to change everything up when I want to go 12 personnel. These guys should understand what we expect of them, and so. But they've done it. They're learning. They too are drinking out of a fire hose through the course of spring, is because the demands of them in the run game, and that's a non-negotiable. These guys are going to be physical. Our tight ends are going to be physical in the run game, and we know they can catch the football. If they couldn't catch the football, they wouldn't be here. But we're going to be extremely physical, and I think Coach Rich has done a really good job of setting the tone with those guys. And I think they, just like the quarterbacks, are understanding just the importance of that position for us.
Anyone else for Coach? All right.
All right. Thank y'all. Thank you.